Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to another #blessed episode of the Single Parents Podcast. This is the podcast for anybody whose life may have turned out a little less than traditional. You got Anthony, you got Steph. We're hanging out in her backyard. That's why we're looking cool and hot with these sunglasses on, because we're just vibing out. It's a Sunday afternoon. You doing good so far?
Doing pretty good.
Nice. Oh, I gotta catch up with you. I've been talking to you like for the last half hour, but I've been avoiding asking you about this because I wanted to hear about it, but I knew I wanted to bring it up on the podcast. But last weekend you went on like a girls trip.
Yes.
Was that last weekend?
It was, yeah.
How was that? Are you allowed to? Is it one of those things where it's like what happens on girls trip stays on girls trip, or can you
I
share
don't know
anything
if I'll
juicy?
divulge too much information.
Fine.
No, but it was really, really fun. I seriously feel like I have not left town since I went to Houston last August. And I'm pretty sure that's the last time I did anything, mostly just because, nobody wants to travel on crutches and a large leg brace.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. You had your whole thing.
But I'm finally have lots of trips planned coming up. So I'm finally feel a little free. Sometimes it feels a little claustrophobic if you stay here too long. But
yes,
my trip was so fun. It was like the perfect girls weekend. We had a lot of fun Friday night, like big slumber party at a hotel, went out dancing, all the whole nine. And then Saturday night I got to catch up with my best friend's parents who I haven't seen in forever, and we just kind of had like more of a chill family night. So it was kind of the perfect mix of both for the weekend.
It wasn't for your birthday, was it?
No, it was one of my good friends, Megan. Okay.
Because I was like, I don't think it's her birthday.
Not yet.
I feel bad because
I still got a couple more months till 30, so I'm hanging on to them.
Oh, that's right. Okay, so you're almost you're gonna cross the line pretty soon. How do you feel about that?
My 20s are almost over. I actually am excited.
Okay.
My 20s have been, not terrible, but not my favorite decade of my life, I don't think. So I'm excited for my 30s. I think that my 30s are they're going to be it for me. It's going to be the time of my life.
I crossed that line a few years ago, and I agree. I like being in my 30s because I feel like I'm still, I guess, young. Like I could still like have ambitions and stuff, but like I'm past the phase in the 20s when you're still like figuring stuff out.
Like you really truly don't know anything.
You don't know who you are. You don't know about life. Like you're still, so like I'm over all of that. I've gotten all that out of my system for the most part. So now I can just, do my thing.
I do. Yeah. I think it's like you kind of come into where you are really comfortable with yourself. You know who you are. You know what your standards and your morals are. And you are kind of like, always learning, but you truly, I think, do get to a point. And not that like 30 is this magic age where you just all of a sudden know everything. But I think the 20s are great for that reason. Yeah. You do a lot of learning, a lot of self-discovery, but I'm happy to be kind of moving into a new chapter.
Well, there you go. I'm glad to hear you had a good trip.
Yeah,
I don't remember what
fun.
I did last weekend. I think I hung out with my daughters, but they conned me into taking to get their nails done.
Oh.
That's why I don't remember, because
okay.
I like still financially recovering from that Saturday.
With two, I can only imagine.
Oh my gosh. Nobody told me getting your nails done was so expensive.
Oh, it's insane.
I should have known.
Yeah, I'll take olive every once in a while. And between the two of us, it's always so expensive.
Yeah. So, that's what I've been up to. Still,
Did you
figuring all that
hang out with your friends at all?
I did. Yes, I did. I thank you for asking about that.
I'm holding you accountable.
Good. I'm glad you followed up. I did hang out with some friends. Let's see. Today is Sunday. So Friday, I was supposed to hang out with some people last night, but they're the ones who bailed on me.
Okay.
I was all set, but Friday.
We won't get you in trouble for that then.
I can't be held accountable for other people's actions, but I can report that I went out and I enjoyed some good company.
Oh, good.
So
grown-up time.
That's okay. Well, nice little report on us. Now hopefully you're all caught up with your friends here, but hopefully you all out there also are doing well, doing fantastic. We appreciate having you on. on another episode of the show. I think we're episode 25, so that's kind of a good number. Thank you for sticking around the show for this long. And if you're new to the show, maybe there's a few things you could do just to make sure you stick around for another 25, 50, 100 episodes. The first thing that you can do is just make sure you hit subscribe on the show. Make sure you turn on automatic downloads. Subscribe on YouTube, do all the things so you never miss an episode in the future. The next thing that you could do is just share the podcast. Share the podcast with a friend, with a family member, with your neighbor, with your nail tech. Is that what they're called?
Yeah.
Yes.
You
Okay.
got it,
I'm
nailed
learning.
it.
I'm learning. Share it with them so that way the podcast grows and we can get this out to more people and we can keep growing the voices on the show. And then last but not least, make sure that you, if you feel so cool and so inclined to do so, you can leave a review on the show, 5 out of 5 stars if you would be so kind, because that just lets the algorithms also out there know that the show is legit and it'll pass and push the show on to more people. All right. You ready?
Benjamin.
I
Benny.
think her dog's
Stop it.
drinking my coffee. That's okay.
Something to relate to.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about something I think we'll both have pretty interesting opinions or, what's the word I'm looking for?
Takes?
Yeah.
There you go.
Is when it comes to stereotypes and the different stereotypes between single moms and single dads.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's some unfair stereotypes, there's some funny stereotypes, but I think I would like to know from your perspective, the stereotypes that you think are ridiculous, stereotypes you think you fit into as a single dad, things like that.
Yeah. So I was excited to talk about this topic because this is one that if you really get me going. So I guess this is an ask. I'll just ask for you right away. If I really get going, get too far into I just want you just to be Anthony, rein it back. Let's just chill, take a breath.
We'll calm him down if we have to.
Calm me down because some of the stereotypes right away with single dads really kind of just get to me and frustrate me, and I don't know, that just gets me going because I think the immediate ones that come to mind are the ones that just really make the bar for a successful single dad super, super low.
Right.
And sometimes the praise that us as dads can get for some of the most basic things, it's just ridiculous to me.
Yeah.
Versus, and you'll probably get into this when you speak on your side.
Yeah.
Versus the bar and the level of standards it takes to get praised as a mom, bar's a lot higher. So, for example, I could, and I've had this happen lots of times. I take my girls to gymnastics or even just on a date. And I'll have people oh my gosh, you're such a great dad, you're such this and you're such that, and such a good parent and all this stuff. And that's cool, but I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm taking my kids just their activities. I hang out with them, just getting them ice cream. I'm being a parent. Yeah, I'm not doing anything crazy, and I think that's why that gets to me because again, on the other side, there'll be moms who do all of that plus a whole bunch of other stuff, but they just don't get those type of accolades so easily. And then you'll hear the thing, I've talked about this on the show before, throwing it out you're so good for having your kids, or even if you're maybe sometimes in a relationship, you'll say oh, he has the kids, or he's babysitting the kids, or he's watching the kids.
It's the terminology that's used for a dad versus a mom. I have never had someone say oh, you're watching Olive today. That would be so insane to me. I'm not babysitting my kid. So I do think it's so funny, the terminology that's used for dads in the aspect of oh yeah, oh, you're so good, you're watching your kids today. That's just parenting. So it is really funny to me, the difference between I genuinely don't think anyone has ever said that to me, and I am sure that it's been said to you.
Oh, all the time. And like I said, I know they're being nice and they're trying to give me my flowers, and I don't take it offensive, But I'm just like, overall, maybe as like a culture, a society, whatever, like if we're going to give praise for things and to hype people up for certain things, then it should just be like that across the board. So
Right.
like give a mom her praise for taking her kids out for ice cream, just like you would do a dad. Or I don't know, all these different things. But the big thing before I pass it on to you that maybe I do fall into when it comes to single dads is maybe the fact that sometimes we as dads, we're not always the best when it comes to like household stuff. So like I'm not the best cleaner, I'll admit that. I'm not the best chef, not the best cook. Sometimes it's, and I'm sure there's like this for moms too, but we'll love it. I don't know how to make a fancy salmon dinner, so we'll order pizza or whatever. Or like, yeah, there's slime on the couch, but yeah, just kind of get it off really quick. It's fine. It looks good.
Yeah.
It's fine. Or just don't lift up the couch
flipped
cushion.
the cushion,
Yeah,
so
don't
we're gonna
do
leave it
that.
that
As long
way.
as like it's out of sight, like then the dust and the grime,
Right.
whatever. So like, okay, like yes, I could do better with that. Or just like remembering like little stuff when it comes to like household chores and things. Like I'm just like, whatever.
Right.
As long as if it smells good. Like when you came over last week, I'm like, I'll get
Yeah.
a candle.
Got a
light
candle
the
going.
candle.
Your
It's
house was
fine.
clean. It was fine.
Oh, good. Thank
yeah.
you. Okay. So I don't know. Those are just a couple things that come to mind right
Yeah. So I think mine's probably pretty similar to yours, obviously just in like the opposite aspect. And I think and this is, I'm going to say this very clearly, no shade whatsoever.
Okay.
I want that to be clear.
Uh-oh.
But I do notice it's really funny because being a parent in a co-parenting relationship, I will see like my daughter's dad take her to do something and get so much praise for it. Like all the comments on the post are like, you're such a good dad. Like, and he is a good dad.
Yeah.
And he deserves to be told that
Definitely.
he's a good dad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny because I could take her to do the exact same thing and it would never, like, it's just, I should be doing that because I'm her mom. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so it does get really frustrating. And I think that it's hard not to get frustrated. But I do like a lot in my life. I have a lot of people in my life who do tell me all the time, like, you're such a good mom. You work so hard. So I do receive that. But I do think it's funny, and I'll see it happen with like a lot of single dads that I know. And it's like, just like taking their kid to the park. And then
Yep.
the comments on Instagram are like, oh my God, like you're the best dad ever. And I'm like, please give me a break. Like they're just doing normal parent things.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I really truly do mean that with like no shade at
Yeah,
all.
for
I
sure.
just think it's funny. But I actually, the whole reason I thought of this topic is because I was watching a video on TikTok and it was like a guy, he's married, he's not a single dad, but his wife was away on like a business trip or something. And he had 3 little girls. And he just kind of did like a day in the life vlog of like him taking care of the kids, doing all of the things. And in it, he kept saying like, oh my gosh, I have so much respect for my wife. This is really hard, blah, blah, blah. And he just was like making a blog about his day in the life. And then I'm like, this is so cute. It's so fun that he like did this and then kind of like recorded his day. And then he was like praising his wife for how hard this must be for her to take on so much all the time. And then I go to the comments and it literally was like, so negative, which it's the internet, you know,
yeah,
so
that's
it
true. That's
happens.
fair.
But I was shocked at how many moms were in there like, oh my gosh, like this is what we do every day. Like you shouldn't be getting so much praise for this. Like, wow, good job. Like being really sarcastic. And I was like actually really surprised because I'm like, it doesn't help to break the stereotypes if he is doing this and he's saying, wow, like this was a lot of work. Like, and his video was super funny, but there was like moments when he just was like, the kids are jumping on the bed and he just looked defeated, you know? And we've all had those moments. And I liked that he shared that and it was very real. And then in the comments were so negative. And I was like, I think that as moms and as single moms too, we have to remember that just because we maybe don't get the accolades doesn't mean that it's not also just as much work
Right.
when a dad's doing the parenting
That's
too.
cool.
So I think that really made me think about it. And I've found myself being negative like that too. Like I think you can get in that mindset. But when I was watching that and I was like, as soon as I read the comments, I was like, it all feels so bitter and so petty. And like, who is it helping? Like, this guy just wanted to post a cute little day with his daughters, and like, it was very real. And everyone just like, all these moms just absolutely trashing him. And I was like, this man did all the work. This is exactly what you guys want men to do.
Right.
But as soon as they do it and post it online, that's not good enough for you because you also do it. And I'm like, his struggle does not make your struggle any less important. So that's what made me think of it. But
yeah, that's a good one. I think that's true. I think the big thing to remember, hopefully, which makes sense, is that like we're all in some ways like figuring it out and trying to make it work and doing the best that we can. And I like how you put it, like we're all having struggles and difficulties, and different things impact us differently depending on like our context, or maybe even our gender. I guess there's things that we still have to like figure, especially like for me, like as like a girl dad, I always joking about it when it comes to like the nail appointment things, but there are legit things that I'm just not going to fully understand compared to things that maybe their mom can understand, or things I am going to have to work a lot harder to understand about raising daughters that I just need to educate myself a little bit more about, especially as my daughters are like 7 and 8 now, but as they grow and their body continues to change and they go through certain things, I'm going to have to be like, I got to figure. And so like, that's like, but my own personal struggle, but that doesn't mean that I'm less than, or I'm sometimes better than somebody else who is in a different context, just because like I am trying to put in the work and put in the effort to figure all that stuff out. That doesn't make me better. That doesn't make, it's just like, I guess like the thing about stereotypes in general is that like it paints this broad brush over like everybody. And so I just think life in general isn't so like broad, isn't so black and white. Like we all got like things that we're figuring out. It's can get specific. But one I wanted to ask your opinion on, because I think one of our followers on TikTok, you can follow us on TikTok for as long as TikTok is still available in the United States of America, if you're an American follower. But she had commented recently about the fact that one thing that she like gets a lot of when it comes to like assumptions and stuff, and maybe this plays into some stereotypes, is the fact that people assume that she's just living good financially because of her baby daddy must be paying like all this child support and doing all this stuff. And so people assume like, oh, well, you're getting money from baby dad, so you don't have to stress about work and stuff like that. And it was basically like, I'm not, like, I don't get any money from him, or whatever it is, their arrangement. She's not getting any money, but people assume that she's so financially good because, well, you're the mom, and so you just must be collecting all that money from your baby daddy. What are your thoughts on that stereotype?
When I think that is such an aggressive stereotype towards single moms, because you see it all the time. Like, oh, she just had a kid with him to get child support.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you see that kind of stuff all the time. And that is super frustrating, because even if you are receiving child support, it's, you know, for good reason, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is for the child's best interest. It is to supplement the income that would be there if you were still together as parents. And it goes both ways. I mean, there are men who also receive child support. If the woman in the relationship makes more money, that's just how it works. And it's to make sure that the kids are living the life that they would be living if the relationship was still together. But I do think it's super unfair for people to just assume that you're getting so much money. You hear it all the time, you know, and it's like, oh, well, you see a single mom get her nails done, and it's like, oh, did you spend child support on that? And it's like, first of all, mind your own business. But it's super degrading too, to assume that someone couldn't be handling that on their own too. Because you also, going both ways, you don't hear that about single dads. You don't hear like,
yeah, that's true.
Well, you know, why would you go do this self-care thing when you have a kid? You know, like, so it is definitely another stereotype that's kind of specifically targeted at the mothers, and it is super, super frustrating.
Oh, definitely, for sure, because I think that has to be super defeating, I can imagine, especially if you are like working as hard as you can and busting your butt and, pouring all these hours into work, and maybe you even have like 2 jobs just to keep your head afloat, and you're barely scraping by, and then for somebody to make that assumption like,
Right.
oh, well, you must be easy for you because you're getting money from somebody else, like that has to feel like
Yeah.
so defeating, and that's horrible. That's
It
a
really
horrible thing.
is. Well, and
Yeah.
I think people also don't realize, especially if you've never been a single parent or even just like lived by yourself, like how much of your income goes into just maintaining a household.
Oh yeah.
Like people really don't think about all of the bills you have to pay, and then think about, okay, now the school year is coming up, and that means new school clothes and the 10-page list of school supplies you got to buy and all of those things. And so I think it's super unfair to assume that, number one, you're just rolling in the dough because you're getting paid child support, because anybody that I know that receives child support is not rolling in the dough.
Right.
So I think that it's such a gross stereotype, honestly, to assume that people, like women, are just going out of their way to basically take advantage of their other parent and just to get financial gain out of it. And it's just like a really weird mindset to have.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other way to say something about like single dads, just like as men, like this stereotype can also be like, oh, well, he is just automatically against the idea of paying child support, or he's trying to dodge it, or whatever. Like it always like turns into like a negative thing when it comes to like
I agree.
the man, because usually they perceive it as like the men who like have to like pay it or whatever.
Right.
But like I know a lot of dads who are in that situation, and they're like fine doing that because they truly know that it is going to support their child. So for them, imagine saying this, like, hey, like I gotta work, I'm working hard, working on my job, maybe a same situation, maybe I gotta work 2 jobs so that way I can keep up on my child support, so I can support my kids and give them a good life. For them to do that so they can stay afloat and to do what they need to do with that and stay responsible when it comes to that, and then to have, people assume that that either you're trying to dodge it or that you're angry about having to do it, when you're just like, no, like I'm not angry, like this is just what I have to do because I care about my kids.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be. So like I guess like it definitely goes both ways for sure.
It definitely does. I think like it's just, there's so much negativity surrounding it.
Yeah.
And it really doesn't have to be that way, but it is. It's just, some people are just, I don't know. Maybe it's just ingrained at this point in society. I don't know.
Well, this is why we're doing this show, because
Yeah.
we're changing the narrative, people. We're not going to put up with this anymore. So if you're a single dad out there and you're doing what you're supposed to do and you're showing up and you're doing the things, then we see you, we applaud you. Where's the what we see and what we're applauding isn't the bare minimum that a lot of other parts of society wants to applaud. We see the fact that maybe you are working 1 or 2 jobs to take care for your family. You're staying up late to help kids with their homework. You're doing the things that maybe on social media, taking your kids to the park, they want to applaud you for, but maybe you need your applause because you're doing a lot of other heavy lifting as well that people
doing the less glamorous stuff
You're
that
doing that
doesn't
too.
get posted on Facebook and Instagram.
Yes, and then for the single moms out there, you are doing all of that stuff, and maybe it's just like Steph said, you're just, well, that's what you're supposed to do. You're the mom.
Right.
That's the expectations. And so it's a lot harder for you to get your flowers for anything. And so we want to give you the same flowers as well. And then also we want to hear your thoughts. Well, did you have any other stereotypes that you wanted to bring up?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think
that
those
pretty
were
much covers it.
the big ones. But
Yeah,
maybe
those
we
are-
are forgetting some, so you guys can just let us know. You could do it through the socials, all the things. Just search Single Parents Podcast, or the email is just thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com. That's thesingleparentspodcast@gmail.com.
Something to think about.
Oh, right. So actually, I was thinking, I don't know why I was thinking about this. Maybe I was just bored at work, and so I just started thinking about stuff. By the way, we're sitting outside. I told you all in Steph's backyard.
It's like
if you're watching the video version of this, it's like
the most random little hailstorm.
but it feels good because it's like warm out here because it's still spring, but we're getting hailed on. So it's like a whole aesthetic right now. If you're watching, I don't know if you guys can see.
It probably
on the
looks
video,
cold, but it's like
no, we're
warm
good.
out here.
I like it. I'm chill.
It's a really interesting vibe.
But yeah, I was just thinking about, I was probably at work, probably bored, probably just doing my thing on my computer because I work from home. I work remotely. I do like stuff with medical equipment. So I'm just always typing away stuff and insurance and blah, blah, blah. So I was probably like, well, what should we talk about on the show? But then I thought about the fact that probably that's what it was, is that when I log on for work in the morning, it's pretty early because I start pretty early in the day. But then I always have to like jump up, kind of get in my little group chat that we have on work with me and my bosses and my coworkers and be like, hey guys, it's around 8 o'clock. I need to run my girls up to school. I'll be back in like 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just thinking about that. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm like pretty lucky, I guess. And very thankful that I have like some really good bosses and supervisors that I work with who truly understand not just like the single parent dynamic, but understand the parenting dynamic in general, to where like if I had to say like, hey, like I need to run the girls up to school, I do this every day that I have the girls, or even if it's like, hey, I need to run back to the school because one of the girls is sick or forgot something, or hey, I'm gonna hop off my computer really quick, guys, my kid just needs something, like they're not going to scold me for that. I'm not going to get in trouble. They're not going to write me up. All they ever said is like, hey, just like communicate, like over communicate, just let us know. Because again, me working remote, like they see that I'm not online doing what I'm supposed to be doing. So they could just make any assumption they want. But they're like, hey, as long as you just tell us like, hey, I got to jump up because my daughter needs help with something, like, to like, whatever, it's not that big of a deal. You're a good employee. We know you're getting your stuff done. Like, it's fine. But I'm thankful because I know that's not always the case for every workplace dynamic, that there's people out there who maybe work for employers who just don't understand like the parenting dynamic at all, especially the single parent dynamic, to where there's people out there I know, maybe even people who are listening to this, who probably get a lot of anxiety about the fact that they need to tell their boss like, hey, can I run up to the school and pick up my kid who's sick, because they are going to either one, maybe it can lead to some getting in trouble or whatever, or two, maybe they're just at least going to need to feel like a piece of shit about it, or feel guilty, or they're going to get whatever, like maybe they won't get written up for it, but their boss may not be totally supportive. Yeah, so like I was just thinking about the fact that what does it look like? Maybe you listening to this are an employer, and maybe for some reason you came across this podcast and you have an employee or two who happens to be a single mom, happens to be a single dad. I was thinking like, what would I want employers out there to maybe know and maybe keep in mind and remember as they look to just hopefully lead and serve their single parent employees well, if you care about that. I know there's some employers who really don't care about treating their employees well, and that's you, and sucks.
That sucks.
Yeah, that's not very good. Should do better. Do better. Please do better. Be better. But for the employees out there who like, no, legit, I want to care for my employees, and I'm still figuring out how to best care for all of my employees, but I have single parent employees, but I just never really thought about how to best support them and help equip them to do their job well. What's something to keep in mind? And so like I would just say before I pass it over to Steph, that just keep in mind that your single parent employees, they're doing the best they can. I mean, for the most part, I know this is kind of a generalization. There's still single parent employees out there who can still suck. Like just, you know,
right.
they're not saying that. But if you're a single parent employee, legit, you know, they do good work, you know, they show up, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, and, you know, but still something comes up with their kid, or something comes up where they have to, sometimes what's most stressful about being a single parent is that there's times where we literally just have to be two places at once, and we just can't, because obviously we're just one person. But keep in mind that your single parent employee wants to keep showing up, wants to keep doing their thing well, wants to give you the best effort, but sometimes their kid just needs something. and they're dealing with this constant battle and tension of like, I need to be there for my kid, but I also need to keep doing my job and I don't want to whatever. So maybe just have empathy about that. Maybe just have conversations about what that looks like. Maybe try to assure, if you want to do it the best, assure your single parent employee that, hey, I have your back. I understand. Like, let's work through this. Maybe you have to take an afternoon off to go pick up your kid from school because they're sick. Okay, so what would it look like next week to make this time up? Like, let's work through this together, so on and so forth. Maybe just kind of keep those aspects in mind, that you're a single parent employee. They're dealing with a lot of that tension a lot of the times, of like sometimes literally having to deal with the fact that they really need to be in two places at once sometimes. So that's what I have. So I was talking to Steph about this because she's very, very close and has a really great relationship with her employer. Mine, again, I work from home. I never actually have met my bosses in person. So like I can only go off of our digital dynamic, I guess. But I know that you have some words from your boss specifically about this that's in a little bit more in depth. So what do you think about this?
Okay, so I did reach out to my boss and just kind of asked her for some of her thoughts on this topic, because I do think she does really such an amazing job at supporting not only me as a single parent, but I think all of the parents in her company as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to her. She actually sent me a really great list. So, and it's kind of like in the aspect of like talking to employers and employees both at the same time. So I think she sent some really good thoughts. So I'm going to read, I have her whole list here, and I'm just going to read what her thoughts were. So a big thing that she finds important is promoting a family culture in your organization, because family is the foundation of our lives. So as a whole, family is a big priority in the company, and that's something that, they show constantly. It's not just, some companies are like, oh, we are one big family,
right,
and it's
usually they say, hey, we're like a family here. That's like a red flag.
Yeah, but like, where I like that it's not like, oh, we're a family. It's like family is the core of everything we do, and family is very important. And then she says, to understand and accommodate work schedules, taking into consideration school, childcare, and to try and be creative and flexible when it comes to working with your employees' schedules, especially during the school year. You have to drop your kids off at a certain time. And like taking me, for example, Olive can't like ride the bus because we live too close to the school, but I'm like a hover mom, so I would never let her. We live within walking distance to the school, but there's zero chance I'm letting her walk to school by herself. So my only choice is to take her to school every day. So my boss is really great about being flexible with that. Even when we are super, super busy, even if everyone else is going in at 7, she understands I have to take Olive to school. So I go in right after I'm done with that. So always really, really good about that. And then if possible, allow team member to work at home if their child is sick or childcare is not available. And this is actually just last week. I got a call from the nurse, had to go pick Olive up from school. And so I just texted her and I was like, hey, like, I'm so sorry. I have to leave work. I'm going to take my laptop home with me. I do a lot of like the social media and stuff for our, the shop that I work at. And so I was like, hey, do you care? Like, and I had some wedding consultations I needed to work on, whatever. And I was like, hey, I got to go get Olive. I'm going to have to be out of work for this afternoon. Do you mind if I just work on this stuff at the house? And she's like, absolutely. No problem. So I picked up Olive. I came home, got on my laptop, got Olive all settled in bed because she wasn't feeling well. And I worked the rest of my shift at my house. And that was like a lifesaver because, especially as a single parent, you're working, trying to make money, and it's so hard if you have to leave work halfway through your day and then you're just out those hours, and that's super hard.
That's a good point, yeah.
And it's, I probably not realistic for every single job position, but if it is an opportunity, like anything that can be done from home that's going to be helpful and productive, I think giving that option in a scenario like that is super, super helpful. Encourage your team members to attend school activities and parent-teacher conferences without making them feel uncomfortable or guilty.
Yeah.
Which, just as you kind of touched on that, I think we've all probably had jobs where it's like, I have to leave work for, an hour or two to go to a parent-teacher conference, or my kid's performing in the school play and I just really I have to be there. And it does, I've had jobs in the past where it's like, okay, wow, you're leaving again. You know what I mean? And it's kind of as parents, I think it's so important for us to show up for our kids. And it's really, really hard if you feel guilty because your employer is making you feel guilty. And then it's just kind of creates this really negative dynamic in the workplace too, I think. If you are showing your employees that you don't care about their personal lives at all, it doesn't make for an environment that people want to stick around, I don't think. So, and allowing children to come to work at times when school is out or childcare may not be available, which, again, I have a very specific job that makes it very easy for me to do these kinds of things. Olive is no stranger to the flower shop. She knows her way around. She knows what she can do there. And again, I'm very lucky that sometimes if I have to work on a Saturday, Olive comes, she brings some snacks, she brings her toys, and she hangs out while I work. And that is something that is a lifesaver for me sometimes, because I don't always have the opportunity if, my mom's out of town and she's my main babysitter. Sometimes it's just not an option. And so being able to just bring her to work with me is truly a lifesaver. So it's super, super nice. Acknowledge the amazing contributions that these team members can make to your organization and work with them to create a future that they want, and celebrate their successes. I think even if you take out of the context of being a single parent, but having that support system and having a really solid person who is cheering you on, especially as a single parent, I think knowing how hard things are sometimes and how stressful and frustrating it can be, and having someone who is hey, you're doing a good job and you're doing a great job at work, and on top of all of these responsibilities you already have, you are doing a really good job. And I think sometimes bosses and employees, I think sometimes they forget how important that aspect is. I think being able to have that little, just even a thank you is so nice. And then this one's more towards the single parents themselves. Find the right fit. Not all employers will be willing or able to provide you with a family-friendly structure. So be upfront about your family, and if the employer has a mindset of flexibility or willingness to work with you, you have a lot to offer, and the right employer is out there. And I think that that's honestly really good advice, because I think I'm sure everyone can imagine, you go into an interview, you're always putting your best face forward. You never want to be okay, so every once in a while I'm just going to have to leave.
Yes.
So but I do think as single parents, we have to be very clear. I am a single parent. There are going to be times where the school's going to call and I'm going to have to go pick my kid up. And, 3-4 times a year, however often parent-teacher conferences, I'm going to have to leave work and I need to be there. This is important. But I think a lot of the times we try to kind of downplay that kind of stuff just in hopes of getting the job. But I think that it is really good advice to just be really upfront and not to get yourself stuck in a situation where you are going to have that boss who makes you feel guilty for leaving work or anything like that, because that's not going to be the right fit for you or your family. So
that's amazing that she took the time to write all of that.
Yeah.
So that's really, really good. There's so much really good stuff there. I think my big takeaway is I totally agree if you're able to do this when you're entering into a job. I just found that it's a lot easier to be very upfront and communicate what the reality of your dynamic as a single parent looks like before you step into that job. Because like you're saying, it's easy to be oh yeah, no, it's fine. I'll make it work and do all this. And then you're trying to play catch up later when you do have to still have all those other responsibilities outside of work. And then you have to, but I remember specifically when I interviewed for the job I have now, I think I kind of kept this in mind. I was you know what, it's going to be just a lot easier if I just be open and upfront about what it looks like for me to be a single dad of 2 daughters and what I have to do and what time of day I have to leave to go do it, pick up and drop off from schools and stuff like that. Because then they can just let me know, hey, it just that just doesn't work for us. That just, and that's as your boss said in that little note that she wrote, like for some employers they just can't accommodate that, and that's
Right.
no harm no foul, but it's all about finding the right fit. But I just found, like, for me it was just easier just to be upfront and be like, hey, I appreciate you interviewing me, because usually in interviews they'll ask you questions and they'll ask like, hey, do you have any questions for us? So that's when I did. I was like, well, it's not really a question, but this is what my reality looks like. Is this gonna be an issue? I don't think I said issue, but like, what does this look like? Is this cool? And then they kind of put the ownership on them for how they chose to respond and what that looked like going forward, because they responded by saying, nope, that's fine, it's cool, communication's a big thing, we're a big family company, there's other people who XYZ. So then when I do in the future have to say, hey guys, I'm leaving for 15 minutes to take the kids to school, I've already set up those expectations, then it's up to them to kind of follow through what they said that was going to be okay.
Yeah.
So and they've been really cool about that. But then recently they're looking about transferring to, like, I guess, like, essentially like a different department in the company. So like I kind of have the same supervisors, but there's like a new supervisor in this new specific role. So kind of the same thing. He was asking me like, hey, like, what do you think about coming over to this department, XYZ? And I was like, hey, like, I already told the other bosses this. They already kind of know my dynamic, but I haven't really worked with you. So just so you know, like, this is kind of what it looks like in the morning, specifically from this time to this time. That's when my kids are getting ready for school. So there might be like 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. I hop off to go help them find a shirt or something random that they need.
Whatever trying to get ready in the morning looks like.
So it's like, it might be weird. Then I'm like, from this time to this time, I do have to take them to school, whatever. And I just laid it out. Because then if he had issued that, I just would have said, okay, then I'm just not transferring departments. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But then he himself was like, no, that's fine. Like, we're, just communicate, whatever. And so I think if you have the ability to do that, I know for sometimes we're just trying to survive. And so you kind of just have to take what job you can get just to pay your bills. And so I know it can just be tough sometimes. But if you are able, I think there's a lot of gold that your boss kind of laid out for both sides to keep in mind.
I think just touching off of what you just said, I think it's just really important to have that open communication and dialogue with your employers, and just being really upfront and saying, like, this is what my schedule looks like, and this isn't really something that I can change, like, I have to take my kids to school in the morning, whatever that looks like. And I do think that just having that really good open line of communication makes all the difference, instead of trying to gloss over and, try and do stuff like that. But I think that just being super, super upfront, especially when you're looking into a new job, or like you said, into a new position, and just being really clear about what you need to be successful in the company is going to make all the difference in the world.
I agree. So I just wanted to have that little chat, just because I know that there are employers out there with single parents, and so maybe these are just some things to keep in mind, or us as single parents, things that we can keep in mind as we just look to do the best at our job. And sometimes we just have to help our employers sometimes, because maybe they just don't fully get it, or maybe they just aren't fully seeing that perspective. And so sometimes communication is helpful on both sides. So I think that's really, really good.
Something to be encouraged by.
So everybody, it's no surprise that we've had Steph on the show pretty often lately, and I think we're kind of talking off camera about what that looks like for sure going forward. But I was just like, like, we're having Steph on the show a lot more, super involved, but as she says, a lot of great stuff, always gold coming out of her mouth. But you might be like, okay, but who is this girl? Who is this girl that you're hanging out with, Anthony? Like, she's awesome. We love what she said. I have notes from all these beautiful quotes she's given us, but I have no idea who she is. And so we were talking about, for both of us, because for me, like, I've kind of been doing the show for a little bit now, but as it's growing and stuff like that, I've took it from like nothing to hopefully to where it's going to be now, to where in the future there's people who are like, yeah, cool, you guys are great, but I just don't know who you guys are. Like, I want to know who you guys are so I can maybe relate a little bit more, because you're saying good stuff, but I don't. So I was like, Steph, what if we took the next 2 episodes, so this episode and episode 26, and ended by just giving the people a little bit of an insight into who we are as Anthony and Steph. Maybe sharing a little bit about our story, getting a little personal, getting a little real, so that way as we keep going on, hopefully people can feel at least like they know us a little bit, as much as that's possible over digital media. So Steph is going to share a little bit about who she is now. I'll do kind of my breakdown next week, but I don't know, wherever you feel cool with starting. Maybe you're going to start back in 1994, whenever it is that you were born.
That was a good guess. That's exactly right.
Is that right? Oh my gosh. Oh, because we talked earlier about how you're turning 30, and so I just quick math. Wow,
there you
I'm
go.
really
That
impressed
was
about
good.
myself for figuring that out. But so I mean, you can start with wherever.
Back
but
in the 90s.
back in the dope 90s. But just who are you?
So quick rundown, I guess, of I was born and spent most of my childhood in Utah. Got great parents. I've got 2 brothers. We moved here. I've pretty much been here ever since. I went back to Utah for a couple of years after I graduated, and that's actually where I met my daughter's dad. I got married really young, much too young, when I was 19. And then I had Olive when I was 22, and then Olive's dad and I got divorced when I was 24 or 25.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was 24. Anyway, so I've been a single parent since I was 24 or 25. I've, been in relationships here and there, but clearly they all worked out really well. But I don't know why I have such a hard time telling things about myself. I did the same thing when you had me introduce myself on the other episode.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I don't know why it's so hard. I'm a florist. I've said that before. I love my job. I literally could not ask for a better job or better coworkers or a better boss. Olive and I really just like to chill and hang out, and we live our best life. And I don't know. When I very first became a single parent, I really did have a super hard time with it. Mostly just because I was a stay-at-home mom for the first 3 years of Olive's life. And then transitioning into being a working mom and a single mom at the same time was definitely shell shock, honestly. And just kind of going from a scenario where I was not the one who was making the money. And so I ended up in a situation where I didn't have any of my own money. And that's actually when I started bartending, which still all these years later, I'm still doing it because it really just sucks you in. But so becoming a single parent initially was really, really hard. I had a really hard couple first years actually of being a single parent, which, everybody has their struggles, but trying to figure out how to work, especially a job like bartending where it's a night, you're working till late hours of the night, and finding childcare during those times is really hard. And then also transitioning into Olive starting school, and I felt like I was never getting to see her because she would go to school all day and then she'd go to the babysitter and she'd be asleep by the time I got off work. And so definitely took me a good couple of years for us to get to where we are in this really good flow of things. When she's with me, we spend every single night together. We do dinner together. We do everything together when she's here. And then I work my bartending shifts when she's at her dad's, so it works out really perfectly. But I think it really did take me a long time to kind of come into being a single parent and handling that. And luckily I have a great support system, because I really feel for people who don't, because I genuinely don't know what I would have done had I not had the help that I had when I was going through that initially, and still the help I still receive. But I don't know. Yeah, I like to hang out with Olive and my dog that has made sure to make a couple cameos in the episode here.
He's been around. He's producing today. Olive's not here this week to produce, so
yeah, we've got Benny instead.
Benny has to be our producer.
Yeah.
That's fine.
But I don't know. I don't know what else I can say.
What? And you like to read books? We
I
brought that
love
up
to
a couple
read,
times on
yeah.
the show. How many books are you at for 2024 so far?
I think I'm at 16 right now.
Yeah.
I've been a little slow these last couple weeks, but
Okay.
I've been so tired. I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know if it's the weather, but I try to read at night because that's like my big thing. I, like to get in bed. I usually go to bed when I put Olive to bed at like 8 o'clock, and then I get in bed and just get on my Kindle and read my books. I literally have been like, I fell asleep the other night, like holding my Kindle. Like I woke up at like 3 a.m, like with it in my hand still. I was like, dang it. But yeah, so.
And are you close with your family? You guys got a pretty good relationship?
We have a pretty tight-knit family for the most part. Actually, it worked my first shift back at the bar last night, and my parents came and were there for like basically my whole shift. So
Nice.
yeah, I have a really supportive, really good family.
That's awesome. Okay, so a couple questions I have, because it's what's interesting is I was looking forward to this segment because like I feel like I've known you for a hot minute,
Right.
but I don't feel like I actually like know her.
Yeah.
Like I know we met, I think, when you were doing cheer stuff. Maybe that's how we met. Somebody asked me how we met, and I was like, I don't
think-
remember.
Was it then?
Because I used to do it. I'll talk
was a
about it
good
next
couple
week on
years
my
ago, yeah.
segment. I used to do like local like stories about people in town, and I interviewed you for that. But I don't remember if that was the first time. I don't know.
Who knows? But it's been a while. It's
been a minute.
I think probably since I was still married was the last. Maybe the first time I met you.
Right. Yeah. Because I used to know you by like your former last name.
My dead last name.
Your dead last name. And so now when no, not now, but like before when your stuff would come up on my social media, I'm like, who is that? Steph. And then like, your last name, I'm like, who is that? And then I'm like, oh, yeah, she's not, her old last name anymore.
Yes, we went back.
Which is cool. And then you like softball. I know that about you. You like softball. Yeah. Yes.
I'm officially retired after an ACL rupture.
Oh, you're retired for good?
I will never play again.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I've actually been banned from playing again by my family, and my boss. Yeah.
Oh,
they
my
told
gosh.
me, they actually just sent me like the signups are happening right now.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, the signups are happening for softball. And they were like, you're not playing, which is
Banned
fair
for life.
because
That's hilarious.
7 months of recovery after
That's
a knee surgery.
Long time.
I don't know if my adult softball league is worth it for the amount of trouble that it put me in for the past almost year of my life. So
that's fair.
I'll be on the sidelines from now on.
All right, rapid fire questions. Here we go.
Okay.
First kiss. Tell me about it now.
Oh, God. It was in 8th grade, right before we were going to get on the bus, and I ran away immediately.
Oh, that person's probably still in therapy about that today.
We're still friends. It's okay.
Oh, okay.
I think
Well,
he
that's
forgave
good. That's
me.
good. He forgave you? Okay. 8th grade. Okay.
Yeah.
That's respectable.
Yeah.
At least what comes to mind when I say, tell us about a big public embarrassment that you have, or at least the first time you remember being publicly embarrassed.
Oh, I honestly the thing is I get embarrassed so easily.
Oh,
so
really?
Like trying to determine like a big one for me. Like I got embarrassed just the other day at brunch because I tried to get the waitress's attention and she ignored me. And I was like mortified. Like, because I've told you before, like I'm not like, with my friends, I'm super outgoing and like can have a lot of fun, but I really am like I just get so anxious. And like, the fact that I was trying to get the server's attention and I was like, excuse me. And she just like walked right by. Yeah. So I can't think of anything like major because I get so embarrassed by the dumbest things, but I don't know. I'm sure I've had many embarrassing moments in high school because who knows?
That's fair. And then last but not least, this really tells a lot about a person. So I'm curious to hear your answer on this. You know that whole white and gold dress, blue and black dress thing?
Yeah.
Okay. What is your answer on that? What color was that dress?
That dress is 100% blue and black.
Yeah.
And if you think it's white, you're literally insane.
I agree. Because I was like, I was driving over here today, prepping for the podcast in my head. And I was like, I'm a little nervous to ask Steph this question because we've been
it could ruin everything.
Literally,
we
were texting all morning, and I was just like, she's like really awesome. Like we agree on so much stuff, but if she says that dress is white and gold, then
That's
everything
it.
else is out the window.
Yeah.
So I was like, do I bring it up? Do I even ask her? Do I threaten our friendship?
It's a scary one to ask.
So I got to exhale now because I'm really like thankful you gave the only correct response to that
Yeah.
question.
Thank God.
Oh
I'm
my
glad that you
gosh.
agree, because
How can you not?
what a time that was on the internet, huh?
That started a lot of.
Really created quite a divide.
It really showed you. It literally showed you who some people really, really are. Relationships changed forever
Yeah.
when that whole thing went down. Well, thanks for letting us know you a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate.
Hopefully
you.
it's at least mildly interesting.
I think so.
I feel like I just panic when I have to talk about
I
myself.
think so. It's fine. You're fine. You did good. And thank you. I don't know if you could see
Thanks,
on camera.
Benny.
Can you see him on camera? Oh, there you go. For our video viewers, we got our producer here. Oh, he's okay. You give me he's giving me the signal saying we need to wrap it up.
Wrap
We're
it
at an
up.
hour. He's like, cut. So we'll go ahead and do that now and say thank you all for tuning in to another episode of the Single Parents Podcast. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll see you back next week for another hot and juicy episode. Until next time, you all out there, just stay beautiful.
Bye.
Bye.